6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
I'd like to call the meeting to order. Would everyone please stand and join us in the flag salute? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight. I'd like to take a moment of silence here to recognize longtime district employee Robbie White, who passed away last week. Thank you. Thoughts and prayers are with her family. She was a good employee and a great friend to a lot of you, I know. We'd like to report out on our closed session, item C2A, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, Government Code Section 54956.9D, number of cases 1. The agreement was accepted unanimously by the board in closed session. Item C3, approval of the minutes. Can I get a motion there?
I move to approve the minutes of the special board. Oh, which one? Regular meeting of. Oh, I move to approve all of them. Okay. I'll second that.
All right. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
All right. Move on to approval of the agenda and consent agenda. Can I get a motion to approve?
A motion to approve the consent agenda.
I second.
This is a roll call.
Rogelio?
Aye.
Jamie?
Aye.
Andy?
Aye.
And I'm aye.
Okay. Our student is off playing softball, I think. Yes. All right. So we'll move on to item E2, recognition, and Mrs. Rigby.
Thank you. So I'd like to begin at the high school. On behalf of Principal Corneo, he'd like to recognize Mr. Lopez and Mr. Gomez. They are our CHS agricultural teachers and FFA advisors. Their energy and commitment in creating a high-quality program are commendable. On behalf of Rincon, Principal Gloger would like to recognize Kevin Reed. He teaches math, science, and electives at both Rincon and Foothill High Schools. He consistently and conscientiously serves the students and staff with care, kindness, and a sense of humor and superb flexibility. Students and staff alike benefit greatly from Mr. Reed's sage advice and balanced perspective. And if you have a question on weather, technology, or even beekeeping, Mr. Reed is your man. On behalf of CMS, Principal O'Shea would like to recognize Elise Unruh and Mr. Thomas Pavia for their expertise in guiding the Red Hawk musicians. And then on behalf of Canalino and the Family School, Principal Pursoon would like to recognize Special Education Instructional Assistant Catherine Neville. Catherine provides outstanding support to the students she works with, and she can be seen playing tag and other games with her students and their friends on the playground. She is a model to her colleagues. At Aliso, Principal Fox would like to recognize Lori Norrix for her contributions to the after-school program literacy program. She's a retired teacher who volunteers twice a week to help with Lexia and homework. She does a fabulous job working with students one-to-one and in small groups. We appreciate her enthusiasm and caring, and we're very fortunate to have her work with students. And then at Summerlin, Principal Fox would like to recognize Karen Labrat from the Transportation Department. Summerlin is lucky to see Karen a couple of times each day. She's always so accommodating, helping to deliver mail to and from Summerlin. She also picks up prepared lunches from Aliso and delivers them to Summerlin every day. She always has a smile on her face, offers to help whenever necessary. Thanks to Karen for all she does in Summerlin. And I believe Karen's right here. Yay. So thank you, Karen. Yep.
Okay, we'll move right into the superintendent's report.
Great. So I'll continue with some appreciation. On March 31st, we received an email from Trustee Claffey resigning from the school board, and I'd like to take this moment to recognize Maureen for her voluntary service to our community these past 2 years and wish her good health. The next item that I wanted to share with you is about our district kindergarten resources for this current school year. Last year, the extended day kindergarten was negotiated with the union, and the 1819 contract language states, for extended day kindergarten, the required class size limit is 24, with an objective of 20 to 1, and an objective of 6 hours daily of instructional assistant time per class. For this school year, the district hired an additional kindergarten teacher at Catalino at $77,987 to maintain the 20 to 1 class size. And actually, the current ratios are 18 to 1 in one class, 18 to 1 in the second class, and 19 to 1 in the third regular kindergarten classrooms. The two DLI kindergarten teachers agreed to enroll 24 kindergarten students in their DLI classrooms due to the high parent interest during the lottery. The district allocated 5 6-hour instructional assistants, $186,465 for Catalino's 5 kindergarten classrooms. How these critical district kindergarten resources are currently being used at Catalino is a school site choice. So the district did provide the reduced class sizes for kindergarten with 6-hour instructional assistants, and it's our plan to continue with these kindergarten allocations in 2019-20. Some good news. The next item is United for Literacy Partner of the Year. CUSD has been nominated for an award to be presented at the annual awards celebration at United Way. The nomination is made in recognition of our outstanding literacy instruction at the elementary schools and also at their after-school programs. So congratulations to the principals and teachers at our elementary schools. We also want to identify and recognize our high school students who are showing their sculptures in the Grandparent Portrait Show at Santa Barbara Faulkner Gallery. We have some very talented high school students. Mia Cox.
My granddaughter.
Congratulations. Gabe Perez, Sydney Morente, Mariela Guerrero, Cynthia Torres, Yael Martinez, Liam Slade, Sarah Weitzman, and Katrina Zlogard, as well as Elizabeth Navarrete. They're displaying their grandparent portraits at the Faulkner Gallery, and the opening reception was last Friday. So congratulations to our students. We're very proud. Another event that occurred this past week is on Wednesday last week. Edith Perez from Fighting Back presented information about vaping to the middle school students. And you'll recall that our Healthy Kids Survey results indicated an increase in vaping among 7th grade students for the past 2 years. So we were glad that they had the opportunity to participate in that presentation. Another great event was the Junior Russell Cup, and that was held on Friday. K-8 students enjoyed track and field events, including the long jump, high jump, shot put, 1 mile, 100 meters, 400 meters, and the 400 meters relay in celebration of the 100th annual Russell Cup on this Saturday, April 13th. There's nothing like watching a kindergarten student who's barely 4 feet tall run a mile. She was unbelievable. That's 4 times around that track. Mm-hmm. Right? And pretty good time. So congratulations to all the participants. It was lots of fun. I included in my superintendent's report some information from the California Department of Education website. In Sacramento, the state superintendent of public instruction, Tony Thurman, he announced the release of the 18-19 enrollment data for California's K-12 public schools. And there's a lot of information there, but basically the most important point is California is declining in K-12 enrollment, and that is also reflective of Carpinteria. So I thought that was interesting. The whole state is declining in student enrollment. The next item is our Joint City District Committee. We met last Monday, March 25th, to discuss joint use agreement for the middle school pool and track and gym. We also discussed possibility of a city resource officer that could support the middle school and high school. We talked about a youth civics engagement project and a cooperative agricultural program. Then the last item is related to Measure U. The Measure U team is working closely with a contractor on planning for the modernization of existing classrooms at Catalino and Carpinteria High School. Bids are also being solicited for the modernization of the classrooms at Aliso School, and the successful bidder will be approved this month. Construction is going to begin this summer, so that's on June 14th, and will be phased in to accommodate student instruction and budget constraints. The Measure U team will be presenting project updates at our May 14th board meeting, which will include information on current estimates and project timelines, as well as details regarding the summer 2019 work. Planning is also underway for the purchase of the new furnishings for all of the classrooms being modernized during the summer. As a preliminary step for the application for the coastal development permit for Summerlin School, the Measure U team presented plans for the new Summerlin School to the Santa Barbara County Board of Architectural Review. The project was viewed positively. There'll be one more meeting with the BAR before the project will be presented to the Planning Commission. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Just it's really good to see the recognition that the district, throughout the district, is getting from these outside groups that are see the improvement and the enthusiasm that we have. So it's really great. And then all the other stuff that we're doing ourselves. Yes. Yeah, our Junior Russell Cup was top notch. Okay, we'll move on to.
I have a couple of comments.
Oh yeah.
On your report, Diana. Okay, first of all, your extended day kindergarten situation, the report itself, actually, to me, it contradicts what union leadership is talking about, as well as kindergarten teachers. They think that it's the other way around.
What other way?
That, for example, that the district is not providing 6 hours daily, but 3.5, the average.
Right.
That's, I mean. That's
right, but I explained the difference. The district in the line item budget has 5 6-hour aides at Canalino at $186,465.
Yeah,
they're assigned to Canalino.
I read that.
Right. But then once they're assigned to Canalino, the Canalino principal and staff determine how they're going to use those instructional assistants.
Do we have the same agreement in place for Aliso?
Yes.
Yeah. And Aliso is content with their 6 hours a day for kindergarten aides.
And family school and
Summerlin. Yeah.
Yes, they've all been allocated.
That's one issue that actually that's why a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, the kindergarten teachers show up and the union leadership has spoken on this. I just want to make that statement. And the other one, you mentioned that statewide. On page 2 of your report, it says that statewide the percentage of Hispanic Latino students has increased from 53.6% to 54.6%. That's statewide. Was wondering about what about CUSD?
We continue to be at 75%.
Okay, so it said the same.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. We'll move on to item E4. We have Michael Baker here from the United Boys and Girls Club to give us an update on recess programming and their annual gala that we don't want to miss.
There you go. Great. Well, thank you for having me. My name is Michael Baker. I'm CEO for United Boys and Girls Clubs in Santa Barbara County, and we operate clubs in, obviously, Carpinteria. We have a club in the west side of Santa Barbara, Goleta, Lompoc, Buellton, and our newest club, which opened yesterday in Solvang. So we're really excited about that. Partnership with, again, another wonderful partnership with the school district. I wanted to give special recognition to just an outstanding superintendent. Diana's just done a great job and built a great relationship with the Boys and Girls Club. And nothing shows that better than what we're doing at the schools, which is recess programming. And the reason we do that, this is something that goes back. I've been working with the clubs for 30 years, and it's something that I've done all the way back to 1988. My first years in the club work is going to the local elementary schools and volunteering and helping supervise activities. And many of the playgrounds, and as you're all aware, and I'm sure you look at the budget, you're strapped and trying to make ends meet, and you're doing the best you can just to try to keep things organized. We send staff not only here in Carpinteria to Aliso and Canalino, but we do that in every district that we have a Boys and Girls Club, some multiple schools, multiple days a week. Here in Carpinteria, we're coming in contact with 185 kids a week that we're running through organized activities for the length of their recess programming time. And the reason we do it is, one, obviously to build a great relationship with the schools from a safety standpoint as well, but also, as many of you probably can attest to, the biggest change that I've seen in the students that we deal with on a daily basis, and it's not even close in 30 years, is childhood obesity is a huge, huge issue. And we're doing everything we can to try to get kids moving for at least 30 minutes a day to help combat that. So I did want to let you know that program is going very well. Our goal is to expand the program. Hopefully we can get some grant money down the road to expand it. But again, this is something that we're doing that the Boys and Girls Club is completely funding. And we're going to continue to do that because we think it's that important in the community and getting kids moving. So we're very excited about that. And a great way that you can help support that effort if you're watching at home. Did I do that well, Sally? Was that a pretty good segue?
Good.
A very good segue. This year, our honoree is Sally Green from Carp. Yeah, absolutely, for the 35th Annual Carpinteria Kids Auction. And when we have the paddle raise, when it's the bids for kids, as we call it, 100% of those proceeds are going to benefit the recess programming that we're doing, and hopefully we can expand even more. So the more we raise, the more we can do. And our goal is to reach as many kids as possible, and I'd love to see our staff on the school campuses five days a week. That would be ideal for us, and I think this district would like it as well. But again, I want to thank you for the opportunity to give you an update and encourage you at any time, if you haven't been to the Boys and Girls Club lately, I would encourage you to come down and check it out. Don Hall, our club director there, and the staff are just doing an incredible job every day. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you for all you do.
No, thanks for your support.
Yes, thank you, Michael. Thank you, Michael.
All right, we'll move on to item E5, middle school presentation. We have Principal O'Shea here with two of her trusty staff members.
Hi, good evening, board members. We are so excited to present about CMS, and when we're going to highlight our media tech class and our art class tonight, but it's there's so many things we would like to highlight. So let me start by saying, when I say that I'm the principal of Carpinteria Middle School, the response I get from everyone is that the really beautiful school? And it is. And now that we have the new Gen 7s through Measure U, we're just so proud. We just took 40 of our top performing 8th graders to Cal Poly this week, totally paid for by Cal Soap. And I wanted to mention that. We just had 3 of our students went through intensive interviews through UCSB and qualified for Tech Trek, which is a week-long camp they'll be attending at UCSB, an engineering camp. And those students are Elizabeth Alpazar, Isabel Nunez, and Grace Thompson. So we're really proud of those. And then we're also excited that tomorrow we're bringing campus-wide all the 5th graders onto campus. So they're going to receive a very warm Red Hawk welcome. I have an expectations video to share with them, and I think they're going to have a good understanding when they leave of what it means to be a Red Hawk. So we're excited. So Curtis, you want to come on up? Actually, I'm going to talk about something else first. Which one does it? Just the... Oh, yeah, you are. You can stand by. He just got back from the Jelly Bowl surfing, so he's pretty zenned out at the moment. I want to talk about a moment about our advisory class. So this is a class that students come to at the beginning of the day for about 25 minutes, and every day they listen, they talk about the bulletin, the announcements, and we have some social emotional curriculum that we go with, and it's all about connecting with one another. So it's just sort of a soft place to land when students come to school. So a purposeful time where students can develop social emotional competencies with the guidance of a caring adult who's their advisor. So if you look at schools that have a really strong levels of support in Tier 1 for response to intervention, schools that have a really good social emotional learning curriculum in Tier 1, so all students are receiving that, those schools are much more successful, and there's really a reduction in disciplinary issues. So we're working just to strengthen our Red Hawk community and make relevant connections during that time. So we have arrival, announcements, acknowledgments, and then an activity. So the benefits of advisory are it promotes a sense of community, it meets the students' needs for belonging, significance, and fun, and it improves both academic performance and social emotional learning skills.
I made the mistake of calling it homeroom.
Please don't. And my staff also knows don't call it
I
zero
know.
period.
I did that, and I was corrected right
That's the
away.
way it was used.
Yeah, I don't like it
Long
called,
time.
zero period. So yes, advisory period. And one of the things we learned this summer in August when we met as a district over at the high school is a lot of our students are suffering from some sort of trauma. And so it just helps to make students more self-aware. We deal with self-management, responsible decision-making, relationship skills, and social awareness. So we're really working on, we're starting for the month of May a kindness challenge, and we'll be pushing that out through the advisory classes as well. So here's just a sample. So a shout out to our librarian, Jessica Gala kind of got this started. Pat, Mrs. G, our librarian, has kept it going. So every day it's very simple for the teacher. So they can come and just pull up a lesson for the day on a slide. And this is one about the Dalai Lama talking about love and compassion. And then students will just have a conversation about those things. So we feel that it's making our school a kinder, better place. And what you've all been waiting for, media production.
Build up. Thank you. So thank you for having me. Those who don't know me, I know a lot of you guys actually. Curtis Johnson, amongst other things, in middle school. I teach media production. And the class really has kind of a dual function. One is on our Friday morning during advisory, we use it as a communication tool and as kind of a culture building tool at the school. So the other part is the actual course itself that the students go through and their experiences building that tool. So essentially what we're looking at here is a course that we put together a show that goes on every Friday morning during advisory. So the whole school kind of goes through that common experience at the start of the day to kind of ramp up the Friday, get everybody up and going. The show itself starts off with the kind of the technology you see there on the left-hand side, and that's iMovie, which is a Mac-based basic video and audio editor. So early on in the semester, first couple of weeks, they learn the basic tech behind it, and then we really start building shows kind of right out of the gates. The show itself has, I have the class broken into two separate teams. Each team has 2 weeks to build their segment for their show. They really actually have about a week and a half because their show is on every other Friday. The two teams are split into 3 groups, and they alternate their assignments. And essentially, we have one group that is in charge of the bulletin, which they actually read the bulletin. They don't read it. Their goal is that they don't read it, that they're sharing the bulletin. They do the Pledge of Allegiance to open the show. They do the credits at the end. They do all the transitions in between the segments, and they do animations, things of that nature. The second group that does CMS-based topics. So something that we want to get out to the school. Principal Shea and I will have a conversation, and then, here's something we want to work on. And sometimes it is things we need to work on, like walking on the right side of the hall or picking up at lunch. And sometimes it's just kind of highlighting things that are going really well, and, calling out to teachers that students appreciate, teachers calling out to students that, they have helped them out, things like that. The last group, if you've watched any good local TV, tries to end on a happy note, so we try and end on a positive note. So our last group is always the quote-unquote fun group for the week, and they're putting out something that's light and entertaining that we can kind of end the day and start a Friday on a good mood. So it may be competition, like, one group versus another in a trivia game, or it might be called, highlighting students that are doing exceptional work at school or something like that. The groups work essentially starting on Mondays. They get their segments, so be it the Bulletin, CMS, Fun, and then they sit down and start brainstorming out their idea. The CMS group generally gets kind of a direction from me, but everybody else is kind of left to come up with something unique, come up with something different. The idea is for them to think outside the box. I'm not standing there and go, you're going to do this, you're going to do that, because I want them really being creative within the process. And so they sit down as a group, they brainstorm up their ideas. They then, when they're ready, they come pitch me. And, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. And I just kind of take all the pitches and think about what's going to work best so the show has kind of a flow to it. And when their pitch is accepted, they go back, they open up their Drive accounts, and they outline how they're going to do it. So who's going to be in charge of the camera? Who's in charge of time every day? Who's going to be director? Who's primary editor? All those things. And what are we going to do first? What are we going to do second? What are we going to do third? How are we going to finish? They bring me that. If everything's cool, I hand them an iPad, hand them a mic, send them on their way, and off they go. And okay, here's our first thing. They follow their outline, and they start shooting their segments. That can take a while. Sometimes it goes quickly, but ultimately they end back and they finally start to input their stuff into the technology. Again, you see there on the left-hand side, and start to build their segment. In a perfect world, they get me their segment on Wednesday. Show goes on the air on Friday, obviously. Typically, I get it on Thursday, but they bring me their rough draft. I kind of look it over. Let's tighten this up. Let's tighten this up. But for the most part, I try and stay out of the way so that they are the full creative force. And then when they finally give me their final segment, I have 3 segments. I go on Thursday and splice them together, and Friday we have a show. So if you don't mind, I'll give you a little highlights. Now, I'm not sure how to launch from here. Oh, perfect. Thank you.
You can click on the link, though, right there, I think.
Yeah, that's interesting. It worked out mine.
Hey guys, it's Nathan
and David,
and today we have your guys' bulletin.
Be patient. In fact, patience is this week's word. It's in your agendas.
Hi CMS, how are you guys doing? Today I want to talk about family picnic lunch.
I like it because you get to hang out with your family at school and you get to eat lunch with them.
What I really enjoy about family picnic is that you get to enjoy some time with your family eating lunch at school.
Another group 2 was the President's Day trivia.
Question 1 goes to the blue team. How many presidents has America had? Ryan? 50. Close. What do you think?
49.
The answer was 45.
I would like to give a special thanks to Miss Alice for helping me through the year.
I'd like to give a special thanks to Mr. Vivia for always helping me through my struggles and always supporting me for whatever I do.
I heard you made it on the honor roll list. What's your name?
I'm Monica Delgado.
What made you achieve this goal?
I managed my time and I made sure to study for my test.
What's your name?
Haley Ronsback.
What made you achieve this goal?
I stayed on tasks and worked hard in all of my classes.
If you remember, what was the most difficult word to spell and why?
Probably emollient, because it sounds like maybe a U there, but it's actually an O.
Vignette. I ended up getting it right, but it was hard and it ended up eliminating most of the other people.
We invited teachers to tell students what they appreciate about them.
Hey, Bree. Hi. So I was challenged to tell one of my students how important they are to me, and I chose you. Oh, really? Yeah, so I want to tell you that you are very important. You are one of the reasons of the many students that I come to work every day and look forward to being here.
You're both genuinely nice people and a pleasure to have in class, and I really appreciate you guys. So, little gift.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So,
that's great.
Anyway, I encourage you all to watch the show. We send it out to teachers, but we also post it on the school website at the top of the on the homepage. So every Friday morning, it's there to be watched if you want to see what we're doing.
Great.
So, thank you for having
Thank
me.
you, Curtis. Fabulous.
Hi everyone, my name is Ryan Ethington, and I have the great honor of being Carpinteria Middle School's art teacher. And I am a new face here, so this is the first year, I believe, that Carpinteria Middle School in a long time has had a full, long year of art as well. So I'm a full-time art teacher. And I have the honor of creating beautiful art like this. You can see here on the screen where it says, "Together we rise by lifting others." And I'm going to talk about some of the wonderful things our students have done and show you pictures and tell you about our great art program. So the next slide, you'll see some of the, I can click it, the arrow. Thank you. I have control. So here for our art program, we definitely focus on creating original works of art with increasing complexity. We have 6th graders, 7th graders, and 8th graders taking art. Students can learn the critique process and how to utilize visual elements and principles of art and design and create their own projects. They also discover art from a variety of cultures, use different medium and time periods and styles. And this also provides a rewarding experience where they can explore their own interests in art, as you'll see, as well as a foundation for continuing to pursue art and looking at critical thinking and understanding contemporary issues and current events through art as well. All right, so for the big things that we really focus on this year in art is our big push for social emotional learning. And we also focus on project-based learning. And we also focus on the studio habits of mind. So these are all research-based teaching methods that our students are using to build critical thinking, have real-world experience, and also really make their art their own as well, too. So we practice visual thinking skills as well. And I'm going to talk about what that looks like by showing you images in just a little bit here. Some of the highlights this year is at the Santa Barbara International Film Festival, we actually had a artwork on display, a big giant canvas. The film that our students got to go see was a Ralph Breaks the Internet, and so we did an artwork based on that. And the Disney director who was there to share the movie and talk about the movie with the students liked our artwork so much that he brought it back to Disney Animation Studios, and it's hanging on the wall to inspire his animators as well too. So that's a real honor. Students exhibiting artwork at the Santa Barbara Art Fund art show at the Faulkner Gallery, as you heard. We also have many students like Ariana Lansbury, Kanan, and even Adam Woods as well, showing wonderful artwork of their grandparent portraits that they've done in pencil. So if you're near that public library, step on in and check out that gallery. You'll see some great artworks done by our students. They're also exhibiting artwork at the Carpinteria Art Show, which is coming up, and I have a little invitation that I just received today as well too. So it's come and celebrate our young artists. So many of our artists are in this art show, and I believe it might be open now, but our big reception is on April 30th that you'll see as well too. So you'll see many of our art students with wonderful works of art in that show as well too. So check out the Linda Fairley Carpinteria Arts Center and check out that new gallery as well. And so we also have some of our pictures here to describe the things I was just talking about. So our big focus on social emotional learning. We have done many artworks where students are working together, planning a big project. And these are large, like 60-inch canvases that you see here with an abstract background and positive messages on it. So we're focusing on the positive behavior at our school and the positive attitude. And you can see here that this one that says reflect kindness was done by deconstructing a disco ball. Everyone gets really sad when I say that, but it's actually really amazing artwork. So right when you walk in the school in the front door, you see this reminder to reflect kindness throughout your day. And also your attitude determines your direction. So students made these on canvas and are working together in small groups to create a positive environment and do that in displaying artwork throughout our hallways. Here's a few other examples as well too, where you see a picture that says stop letting other people define you and be yourself and be proud of it. And you are not a wave, you're part of the whole ocean, reminding students they're not just responsible for their own actions, but they're part of our school and they're proud to be Red Hawks. And that's what I hope you see when you walk into our school. A lot of teachers have shared with me just when they saw the artwork coming back from spring break, how it was so inspirational and encouraging, and just the type of environment we're trying to create. Share your similarities and celebrate our differences is also another one. Down here in the left-hand corner, students were asked to actually think of one word that would be something they wanted to share with other middle schoolers. And so you can see all these encouraging words that they were posting in the, they painted on canvases and posted in the hallway as well too. And there's other artworks here. You can see some of their paper mache masks they did by studying other cultures and some of their op art designs. So we're working on canvases with paint, and we're trying to create the most real world experience they can have with the project-based learning as well too. And one of the great projects we started, our very first project with the students, was to create a printmaking project. They carved positive words onto a block and then actually printed that. So these words, they had to do a mindfulness exercise of closing their eyes and directing their thoughts to someone in their life who encourages them. And what are the words that they could hear that that person tells them over and over again? They had to narrow it down to just one word and print that word. And then we called this our inspirational words, and we posted them in the hallway for other students to see as well too. So you can see a little video of some of those words here.
I chose the word brave because if you're not brave, you will not be able to achieve or accomplish anything that requires bravery.
If you don't try, you won't get anywhere in life and you won't achieve anything. And a lot of people always say this, and it just motivates me to do things.
So we try to dive into projects and help to have students really think about what their work is going to become. They use these habits of mind where they research, they dive in and observe and reflect and stretch and grow, and try to understand how their art makes a difference in the conversation about art as well too. So you can see here some of the positive messages that students wrote, again focusing on our positive behavioral support and social emotional learning and making the artwork unique to the student as well. We also try to focus on, I'm going to keep moving forward here, on our projects that are based on, let's see if I can continue the next slide here. Yep. Yeah, I'm not sure it's responding there. So here is another example. So we have this project. This is the Ralph Breaks the Internet painting that we did. And you can see here it says make art. And all the students involved with this plan the background, they plan the image of Ralph. They plan the message and the canvas, the palette that he's holding. And then students who were involved, as well as students who were in the class, all signed this, and they signed it around the background. So every student's name is in this project, and they now those students' names and that art painting is hanging at Disney Animation Studios. So that's the one with the Mickey Mouse hat. That's in front of the building, and that's where the animators work, I believe, in Southern California. So you can check that out. And the director here of the film festival is on the right side, and as well as the directors for Disney. And they were inspired by this and really complimented us, so it was great. It felt great for the students to know that their artwork is actually hanging at Disney Animation Studios, and that it was chosen to inspire the animators as well, too. So I think that is wonderful. Here's another example. During Black History Month, we actually made other paintings, and we included one here on the left that you can see. It says Voices of Hope, and it's encouraging students to speak up and use their voice. And not only to use their voice to make paintings like this and spread a positive message, but we went ahead and during Black History Month, we found famous quotes by Black leaders, and we had the students read them, and we recorded them and animated the animation of the text as well, too. So in the hallway, when you see this wonderful canvas, you can also scan it, and it will take you to a YouTube video as well. So you can even... maybe, I don't know if it will work on the screen, but you can actually scan that, and it will take you to a wonderful video that you can hear the students' voices. And it's really inspirational to hear the students' voices reading those quotes as well.
It did work in the next one.
Oh, great. And then this is a couple examples of our grandparent portraits that you can see on display in the Faulkner Gallery as well, too. So students having the chance to really reflect upon their grandparents, and I asked the students to reflect upon their legacy of the grandparents as well, too. So what does their grandparents' legacy, and how does that affect them? How does the choices that their grandparents actually made affect their life today as well, too? So we really try to dive in and make our artwork personal. And here's a couple examples also of something called Zentangle, which is a type of artwork where you do a pattern, and inside the pattern you relax and just do a pattern within a pattern. And it's kind of a mindful practice as well, too. So it's supposed to be relaxing, just like it sounds, a Zentangle, right? But we took this and took it to the next level. So we do try to incorporate technology in our projects, too. So you can see what the students did after that by animating their faces as well, too, that they did. So we used the computers in the computer lab and an app and went ahead and added this to our portraits, trying to use technology with our artwork as well. Here's another example of project-based learning where we look for a real-world problem, like maybe animals who are homeless, and we invited professionals into the classroom. So someone from the Santa Barbara Humane Society came and spoke to our class and talked to us about compassion for pets. We also really focused on self-care at our school. So we looked at what does self-care look like for a person, and what does it look like for pets during this project as well, too. And we compared those two lists. And then we brought in animals to the class as well, too. So, and then, thank you. And then the students went ahead and chose their own pet or a dream pet that they would have, and made their own pet portrait as well, too. And some of these are also on display in our art show. And finally, here is one last slide of our students and their smiling faces with some collages around them, focusing on things that they're interested in, wanted to be known for, or dreamed to do one day. And so I just wanted to leave you with this slide to thank you for supporting Carpinteria Middle School's art program, and just to say how happy I am to be here, and I really enjoy working with our students. Thank you.
Well, thank both of you, and Lisa. Thank you guys all. We're really happy to have all of you here too. So, and it's I think both presentations were very inspirational. You know, we're lucky to have teachers like you in our district. So thanks.
Thank you so much. Fabulous.
And another comment on this. And I remember last year we were discussing about what can we do for the middle school. What kind of electives can we recommend? so we decided on art, and it was the right choice. Thank you very much. And these two phrases actually stuck to my mind. You are not a wave, you are the ocean. And be yourself and be proud of it. Mm-hmm. And thank you very much. And thank you. That's all I can say.
All right, we'll move on to item E6 and a discussion about the filling of our vacant board position.
Thank you. So our board bylaws 9222 and 9223 outline the requirements for board resignations and filling a board vacancy. A board member may resign by filing a written resignation with the county superintendent of schools. And on March 31st, as I mentioned, we received the email from board trustee Maureen Claffey, who was from 2016 to 2020, indicating her resignation effective March 31st. Our office informed her that her written resignation is effective when filed with the county superintendent of schools. And she has filed with the county superintendent of schools as of this week. This board vacancy is 21 months before the end of the term. Therefore, the board is required to order an election or make a provisional appointment unless a special election is mandated according to Ed Code 5091. When the vacancy occurs from 6 months to 130 days before a regularly scheduled board election, at which the position is not scheduled to be filled, a special election to fill the position shall be consolidated with the regular election. At this time, the special election is not required. Therefore, the board may make a provisional appointment. The board is required to advertise in the local media to solicit candidate applications or nominations. A committee consisting of less than a quorum of the board shall ensure that the applicants are eligible for board membership and announce the names of the eligible candidates. In order to serve on the board, a person must meet the eligibility requirements that are specified in Ed Code 35107. The board shall interview the candidates at a public meeting, accept oral or written public input, and select a provisional appointee by a majority vote. So I'm making the recommendation that the board vote to make a provisional appointment for the remainder of the term to December 2020 and to appoint 2 committee members to screen the applicants for the board membership eligibility.
Okay. Can I get a motion there?
I move to accept this recommendation.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All right.
A couple comment or question. So it's going to be this position, board position, is going to be advertised online, Coastal View, whatever.
Yes.
Okay.
We will advertise it in the local media, so that'll be the Coastal View. It will also be posted on our website.
And let's say that 2 of them are interested, and both of them are good candidates.
Whoever's interested, the 2 board members will look at all the candidates who've applied, will make sure they've met the eligibility requirements. Then the candidates will be invited to a board meeting, and in public they will be interviewed. And then the board will select the candidates after they interview them.
So let's say that 4 of them are interested.
Yes.
So they'll show up at this meeting, at this public board meeting, and then they will be
interviewed.
They'll
be invited to.
It's a public
Yes.
public interview.
Yes.
And then we'll decide.
Publicly.
You'll discuss the candidates, and publicly you'll take the vote.
Right there on the spot.
Yes, and we're planning that it will probably be the public meeting in May. So we'll once you take the vote today, we will post the information in the newspaper, and the candidates will have until the end of April to apply.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Any other comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. We'll move on to any public comment not on the agenda.
All the public comments that we have relate to the budget. So
okay, we'll hear them then. Okay, we'll move on to board policies. Board policy F1, 1312 Point 3, Uniform Complaint Procedure, second reading. Can I get a motion there?
Motion to approve Board Policy 1312.3.
I second that motion.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, item F2 is Board Policy 5021, Non-Custodial Parent, second reading.
I move to accept Board Policy 5021, non-custodial parents.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, item F3, Board Policy and Administrative Regulation 5022, Student and Family Privacy Rights, second reading.
I move to accept Board Policy and Administrative Regulation 5022, Student and Family Privacy Acts Rights.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, nothing. G. Move on to H warrants. H1 warrants. Board is being asked to approve the warrants from March 9th through April 4th in the amount of $1,278,352.46. Can I get a motion to approve?
Second.
I move to approve the warrants for the period of 3/9/19 through 4/4/19 in the amount of $1,278,352.46.
Second.
All right. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we'll move on to gifts, grants, and donations. We have a donation from Renee and June Van Wingerden to the High School Future Farmers of America in the memory of the late Walter Johnson, a longtime agricultural teacher. Can I get a motion to approve?
I move to approve H2A.
Second.
All right. All those in favor, say aye.
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 With gratitude, thank you, Renee and June. Okay, we'll move on to H3, Carpinteria School District Governance Team Protocols 2019, second reading. Can I get a motion to approve?
I move to approve the Carpinteria USD Government Team Protocols for 2019.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, item H4, District Real Property Advisory Committee recommendation on the Whitney property.
I move to approve item H4.
I second that.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, move on to item H5, Resolution 19-840, authorizing the 2019-20 TRAN and participation in the California Cash Reserve Program. Can I get a motion to approve?
I move to approve the TRAN, what is it?
Resolution.
TRAN resolution.
I'll second.
All right, any discussion? It's roll call.
Rogelio?
Aye.
Amy?
Aye.
Andy?
Aye.
I'm aye.
Okay, we'll move on to H6, the 2019-20 budget study session. And I'll turn that over to Maureen.
Just go to the corner and, yeah. Okay, so tonight we are once again bringing forth a document that continues the discussion of the 1920 budget development process and recommendations. I won't go through absolutely every slide. A lot of them are repeated with our mission, our district core values, our goals, the budgeting principles. We've been through these every time. This slide changed slightly at the bottom, where we did hold one actual budget study session isolated from a public board meeting. The rest of the discussions we have had and will continue to have at every board meeting as agendized. And then they will all be here at the City Council at 5:30. I just wanted to make that really clear. Again, these are our timelines. We're kind of at the point of the year where This process is getting finalized. We build our final 1920 budget. We have it ready mid-May. We start to present the preliminary budget for hearing the first meeting of June, adoption the second meeting of June. So we don't have very many board meetings left in this process, and this will be the board meeting before we bring some more solid recommendations and resolutions to you at the 23rd of April. This slide hasn't changed. We don't know anything new about property taxes. May revise, it's not May. We'll know about the May revise around mid-May, and that will change probably very little for us. I hope to have our property tax update sometime in the next 3 weeks. It usually doesn't come until around the 25th, 28th of April. Maybe a little bit sooner, but probably not. This slide is the same. We have our statutory benefit percentages. We have 3 scenarios of what positions cost the district. And I did add at the very bottom, these are actual CUSD teacher salary ranges. So our lowest salary is $45,474 with a total district cost of $73,947. Our highest salary is $93,384 with a total district cost of $129,633. Those are real. So the $75,000 is very average. It's not a person, but it is a very average salary for us. We do have the majority of our staff at the higher end of our salary schedule. History of property taxes has not changed. It's the same slide we've presented. We're on now page 11. This is our staffing. This is the entire FTE of our district. Every single position in the district is listed on this page. At the bottom left, the district office, those are the only positions that reside at the district office. This does not include categorical funding, restricted program funding, special ed, after-school program. Those are all restricted programs, so these are all unrestricted positions in the district. Cost of living increase, the history of cost of living increase, this has not changed. History of health and welfare, this also has not changed. We will have our 1920 rates by the end of this week. We have a meeting on the 11th to get our actual rate increases. History of pensions, this is a new slide, and we're on page 14. So we've talked a lot through this process about some of the biggest cost drivers to our budget over the past couple of years. And the biggest is the cost of the rising pension increases. So this takes our pension costs, STRS and PERS, STRS for certificated or credentialed employees, PERS for our classified non-credentialed employees, back from 13-14 to the current year. It gives the rate, the percentage rate to salary over the years, and the cost of those benefits over the years to the district. And the last bar at the very bottom is the change over prior year. And I think you can see what happened really beginning in 16-17 and 15-16 for STRS is those percentage increases just took a steep incline. And this is reflective over the 18-19 year, and just over the 18-19 year, STRS alone went up 235% since 13-14. PERS went up 104% since 13-14. And 18-19 is not the peak year. We still have 3 more years of significant climb in our pension rates. And that was presented on the previous slide. So these are the drivers that we have to really consider, not just on the salary side, but on the things that we can't control on the pension and the health and welfare increase side.
Well, you can compare that to the 2 slides before, the history of property tax revenue increases, and it doesn't keep up.
Mm-mm. No. So when you take the total new income versus the total increased expense that we don't have control over, it really is one's outpacing the other.
And Maureen, how much of, is my mic still on? the monies that Governor Newsom was giving back to PERS and STRS, how does that affect this?
It doesn't.
Okay.
We did receive a 0.01% reduction in the projection. Okay. Yeah. It mitigated us by about $17,000 total. So it was very minimal. And PERS and STRS rates are set differently, and the PERS rate neither have the opportunity to change, but the PERS rate is statutorily set, so it's much more difficult to change, and it's a lot of the increases in these rates are really because of the lag in return of investment on both of these funds. Most of public agencies lag 5 to 8 years past a recession. So the return on investment is a delay. I updated this slide. This is the 5-year financial history with the current year so that the 18-19 budget reflects the second interim that we presented last month. The same thing with the total general fund. I updated the 18-19 budget to reflect the second interim. This is a new slide. Oops, sorry. I can't see out of the left eye. I don't see what's close. So this is a new slide, and I thought this is an interesting comparison to our neighboring basic aid districts. And this shows the enrollment of the district, their general fund expenditure budget, their per pupil spending amount, their percent of reserves, and this is all at second interim, and what they pay for health and welfare contributions. So one of the things that I'm interested in is comparative data, because it does help drive decisions. And this is important for us because we are a basic aid district. We are not a basic aid district that we can compare to Montecito or even Goleta, well, maybe to any of these. But it does show how even as a basic aid district, we are very uniquely different than these districts.
Could you just explain basic aid for the benefit of the kids?
Sure. So there are 2 types of districts funded in California. One's funded through the local control funding formula, LCFF, and that's a formula the state calculates to say, based on your student population and a set rate per student, this is how much you're going to get. Property taxes are part of that. It's deducted from the total, and then the state pays the balance. And if your property taxes are more than the formula, you keep it all, and you don't get anything from the state. So we're a basic aid district. Our property taxes are here, and our formula is here, so we keep all of this. Whereas if we were LCFF, and this was our formula, and our property tax was here, the state would fill this part for us. So that's how the funding happens. This is an interesting article, a new slide also, that was published by School Services of California a few weeks ago on statewide reserves by unified elementary and high school districts. And this has a slight change from prior year, but statewide reserves for unified districts is just under 17%. And a lot of this is a result of the fact that the recession hit public schools so hard that districts were having to make sure that in the event that happens again, they're protected, and those reserves were built. That's a high level of reserve, and there's a lot of opinion around whether these are too high or not high enough. There was a lot of legislation floating around too for reserve caps. There is a rule for LCFF districts that they can't have a reserve cap above a certain formula, but that cap is exempt for basic aid districts. And I'll make a comment on the reserves and reserve levels for LCFF versus reserve levels for basic aid districts. Because basic aid districts rely solely on property taxes, they don't have a guaranteed level of funding as a formula would. So in the event, and this is happening both to Montecito and Goleta, and I think both Cold Springs, maybe not as much Hope, to the extent that their property taxes have gone down because of the disasters and the floods and the mudslides. And that's not saying that they're hurting, but that is a dip in their revenue. And if that were to happen to us, and we were to lose property taxes enough to fall into LCFF, that's several $1 million. And if that would be the case, and we didn't have enough reserves to cushion ourselves, then we would be in a pinch. I'll also say, and this is kind of...
We'd be in more than a pinch.
We'd be in more than a pinch.
We'd be looking at severe layoffs.
Cuts.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't want to be doom and gloom, the sky is falling, but let me put it in some perspective. This article talks about making sure that you have 3 months of payroll reserved. For this district, payroll is about $1 million to a month. Sometimes a little more, sometimes around $1 million too. 3 months of that is $3.6 million. Right now, our reserve is less than $2 million, including restricted programs. Our designated reserve, the percent this is talking to, we only have about a 5%, and that's about $900,000. So we're almost a third of where we should be to have adequate, maybe even a fourth of what we should be to have adequate reserves for 3 months of payroll. And reserves does not mean cash, because reserves talks about on paper your fund balance. But if you have a low fund balance and cash is maybe 60% of that, you're going to have low cash. But if you have a high reserve balance and cash is about 60% of that, then you'll have enough cash to sustain any other situations that may cause you to not have incoming cash. I'll also say that the TRAN that was just approved, it's a temporary borrowing mechanism because as a basic aid district, we only get cash in December, in April, and then we settle up in a little bit the first week of July. We don't get cash every month like a regular district in LCFF would get apportionment monthly. We don't get that. So we have to have a temporary cash borrowing mechanism to get us through those months we don't have incoming cash, and that property tax cash has not lasted. That's like, you consider your home finances and you only got paid twice a year. You may have to have something to help you float those months until the next payment comes in.
How about comment, Maureen? Comes to my mind that the state actually has not changed its 3% mandated reserves.
What do you mean by that?
Yeah, I mean, it's been 3% year after year.
That's a minimum.
Yeah, but still that's within the limits.
But Rogelio, if you ask anyone where they came up with that number, they can't tell you.
Well,
if you apply that 3% to a district like Los Angeles that has, a $2 or $3 billion budget, that's a lot of money. But when you apply it to a district like ours, as you just heard, that isn't even enough money to make a month payroll as a reserve. That's basically living on a credit card all year long. Because you have to be borrowing the money to make your payroll.
Well, that is why it comes to my mind too that we have to cut down on expenses.
Well,
I've been on the board a couple of years, and all of these reports, and I always see state mandated 3%, 3%, 3%, 3%. I mean,
it's Assembly Bill 1200. It was written in the early 90s when Richmond went bankrupt. I was in one of the second districts that went bankrupt. I was staff at the time, and it was quite an amazing journey. And the 3% at the time, this is again, and 30 years ago, at the time, was intended to float 2 or 3 months of payroll. But the Assembly bill has not changed. It's in legislation, and it's not 3% for every district. It depends on where you are in your enrollment group. It's a formula. Most fall in the 3%, but it also has kind of disproportionately fallen out of scale over the years, and it has not been rewritten. So we're not, it's not 3% is stuck in statute. That's what we're minimally required to do. I will remind the board and the public, we do have a board policy that does recommend a minimum of 10% as a goal. It's not required in board policy, but we've not, we have been up, but then we're continuing to increase our expenses beyond what the revenue is growing. So we are getting a little bit disproportionate. But I'll continue before we'll look at what we've got for 18-19.
Yeah, I'm taking a look at page 32.
Well, can I get to that when we get to that? Let me get through the.
Let me link this together.
No, well, let's go in order first, please.
All right. Okay.
Okay. So I'm just going to move on. The slides have all been the pie charts have all been updated for second interim. Again, so I'll say this for some of the kids who haven't been here before, the high school kids. The green pie is our property taxes. That's the biggest part of money we get. The rest are mostly restricted dollars. The blue in the second slide are all of our people. And the other pie are books and supplies, services, and other outgo. So the majority of our budget is invested in our people. And the third slide, the third chart, talks about, of our total general fund budget, what are our goals and how is our money being spent towards our goals. And you can see between the blue, the orange, and the gray, those are all direct services to kids, including the athletics and after-school programs. So we do invest ourselves heavily into our kids and the instructional curriculum programs. This is something I've added because I had a lot of question about what the colors mean and what's in those colors. So you can follow the colors in the categories to the chart over here. So you can see how the largest pie is the blue, the lighter blue. The lighter blue are classroom teachers, classroom aides. And then I'll go over to the green section, which is general administration. General administration is board, superintendent, audit, internet cell services, administration, student data, indirect costs, business office, human resources, warehouse, IT. Also in here is our property and liability insurance and all of the things that fall under business services and administration. So this is just a good illustration of what these colors mean. This on slide, I can't read that, 23. This is updating the special ed so that 18-19 reflects second interim. And then on page 24, we start talking about the 19-20 budget. So at the beginning of this slide, we have an adjustment. One of the things that we became aware of pretty much the last 2 days of March, after we had already presented the second interim, was that our workers' comp JPA SIPE, Santa Barbara SIPE, decided that they had an excessive fund balance, and it was voted by the board of the JPA to reallocate some of that fund balance back to districts on a one-time basis. We received a $306,482 rebate from our workers' comp JPA. So that helped current year one-time revenue. I've built that in this scenario so that that beginning balance from 18-19 is increased by that revenue. The rest of this slide has not changed much, with the exception of the contribution to special education. Previously, we had an increase of 1 FTE special ed teacher. We are adding a second FTE special ed teacher, and these are requirements for caseloads. And the cost of those teachers are together are $152. So the projected 19-20 unrestricted revenues is $21,439,721, about a 1.69 change over prior year. Slide 25 talks about our budget drivers. This has not been updated. I don't have any new information on this slide. Step and column, Health and welfare, our health and welfare rates we will get on Thursday. It is anticipated that the health and welfare rate will not be 3.5. It will be it'll be some percent over 2. So this will go down. CalSTRS and PERS, these are the rates that we knew at the time. There's been no change to these rates. And the rest of the increases are estimated. Those don't come in until the fall. And then I'll note again at the bottom left of this slide that a 1% cost of living for the entire district, including administrators, not just exclusive to bargaining groups, is $191,004. And that is not included in this budget, in any of these budget drivers. So the expenditures are a net increase of 2.7 over prior year. I'm going to go right on to page 27. These are the unrestricted budget reduction options. None of this has changed since you've seen it last. This list totals on page 20, sorry, I can't read that, 28, 1.116071. And those are the same options that were presented at the last board meeting that we presented in February, on February 26th. I will take you to slide 29, which starts to incorporate the 18-19 budgeted expenditures from second interim, our budget drivers, the reductions of $1.116 million for a projected unrestricted expenditure of $21,292,695, and that's about a 2.42% decrease from prior year. And there are no expenditures built in for any salary increases. So when we're talking about reserve percentages and our fund balances moving forward, we're always considering having enough to be able to provide salary increases. Page 30, slide 30, this is the bottom line. Projected unrestricted ending balance of $2.88 million. 1920 revenue and expenditure as we presented, with a surplus of $147,000. This is like in the black. This is a good thing. With a reserve percent of 7.52%. That's with the $1.1 million. So we have updated the multi-year scenarios, and Rogelio, let me go through these, and then we can go back and I'll answer questions.
Okay.
On slide 31, this is the multi-year scenario with no reductions. Now, previously, no reductions showed red in 1920 and 2021. With the addition of the one-time money in 18-19 to boost that fund balance, it gives us a positive, and the 1.1 million in reductions, it gives us a positive. I mean, there's no reductions in this, I'm sorry, but this does have the boost of the 300,000 in revenue, less than special ed teacher. It does give us a 3.63 reserve in 1920. In 2021, it just falls below 3%, and a lot of that is because of the loss of one-time money and how that plays out in multiple years. So this is barely making it, and it wouldn't take much to certify that third year as far as reductions. On scenario 2, we did what we're considering a minimum reduction for a positive certification, and that's with option 1 only. And if we go back to the list, option 1 is just the curriculum adoption savings. Since we're not going to do 2, we're going to do 1, that $215,000. And you can see with just that one budget change, it gives us a 4.3, 4.0, 6.35% reserve. All years are certifiable. These are all new options, by the way, the multi-years. Scenario 3, we have reduced the reductions to $737,594, omitting option 3, which is the elementary library media tech. Option 8, which are the classified classroom aids, and option 11, which is the high school library media tech, the 0.5. Eliminating those reductions from 1.1 to 737 gives us a 3-year of 6.1, 7.52, and 11, just under 11.5%. And the last slide is with the full 1.16 million reductions. It gives us a 1920 reserve of 7.52, 10.12, and 15.33. Understand that there are no salary increases built in any of these years. And a 1% is 191 for all employees, not just bargaining unit members, everyone that works for the district, including management. And we want to make sure that we are adequately covered to be able to have compensation considered in all of those out years, current in the 1920 and out years.
So,
thank you.
Okay, let's go back to page 32, and you're right. As soon as this afternoon, I was going through the budget, and I noticed this option, and I hadn't seen it before. So you're right. This is a new option.
It says new slide at the bottom.
Correct. Yeah. And the question that I have is, what's wrong with this scenario? I mean, reduction option 1 only 215,000, and reserve balance 2019-2020 4.35%, 2020-2021 4.04%, 2020-2022 6.35% reserves.
There's nothing wrong with this
what's
option.
What's wrong with that?
I didn't say there's nothing wrong. It's just a presentation. No, I said this was a certifiable option.
It's a healthy budget.
It's not a healthy budget.
Well, if you give a 1% increase, that falls below 3%.
That's when we have to, when adjustments have to be made. But
okay, yeah,
so
there's a lot of.
I mean, I think that you mentioned before that
certain options you can't take reductions mid-year. You know, you can't make those reductions mid-year because you're contractually obligated. You know, by our agreements, to not you can't lay people off mid-year.
Well, yeah, I understand that, but still, 4.35%, 4.0%, 6.35.
It's certifiable.
That's what counts. That's what's important. I mean, regardless of any discussions, arguments, this is healthy.
No, it's not healthy. It's certifiable. But it's what we're not recommending it because what we consider healthy is to be able to give our employees a raise as well as to have reserves like basic aid districts need to have, which is 2 months' worth of salaries. So three. 3. Yeah. 2 or 3 months of salary. So this is not a healthy. This is not a healthy budget recommendation, and we're not recommending it.
Well,
it is certifiable, however.
To me, certifiable being okay with the state, that's all right with me. Because for years, actually, you have recommended 6%, 8%, 10% reserves. You even mentioned 20% reserves. That's incredible.
Are you advocating no COLA this year?
No, but this is to me. If you are recommending, let's say, But that's a
simple question. So with the bare minimum reductions. Are you advocating?
I mean, the least damage that could be done to.
But are you advocating no COLA? Because as soon as you put a COLA in there, you're not certifiable.
That could be one solution. Because this is what I see. Scenario 4. Reductions for 1,116,000. That's. I mean, and still, Maureen said. At the end of April, more solid recommendations will be presented. So this actually might not be final. This $1,100,000 reductions. So I'm wondering. I mean, because I remember like 3 months ago or so, you presented to us, okay, this is the cuts total 846,000. Following week, it went up 100,000, 940,000. Then following week, you present to us 1,100,000 reductions. So this might not be final. And
those scenarios.
This means that this is what I'm seeing is that in order to get those reserves that you want, whatever you want 7.5 reserves on 2019, you want 10% on 2020, 2021, and then 15% 2021, 2022. That's.
So
I mean, this is what I'm seeing. Like you are in these. You're putting money. I mean, you're putting money over people. That's why. I mean, it doesn't matter who gets cut or who gets laid off. The instructional aides, for example, custodians, retirement.
These were just options that she's presenting?
I mean, but like, for example, teacher, I mean, we have teachers who are retiring and there is no replacement for them. You want to say money, but still, I mean, bus drivers, their hours are being cut. And all of this, it's just I mean, I'm thinking.
So
I'm not thinking about money. I'm thinking about a face behind this position. I mean, even 2 hours. That means a lot. It means a lot to me.
So let's hear from public comment.
Yes, sure.
And then we can have a discussion.
Sure. Thank you. We're going to start with Ration Solis Herman.
Okay. I am ready. Good evening, everybody. I am Mrs. Rashawn Solis Herman, and I am a K-1 aide at Catalino/Family School. And I have a question for the board and Ms. Rigby. So this is directed at you all. What if it were you? As winter began its slow march in, the talk on the school campus begins. Cutbacks are coming. The school board needs to make budget cuts for the next school year. The school board is looking at cutting instructional assistant positions to begin the budget cutbacks. So talk among the instructional assistants begins. What will you do? What if it were you? So this year I asked the board and Mrs. Rigby, what if it were you? How do you begin the conversation with your family to let them know? Once again, we will need to think ahead. We will need to plan ahead. We will need to be strong. We will need to be smart. How do you begin that family conversation, board members and Mrs. Rigby? What if it were you? Cutting instructional assistants to the classroom is not the financial solution to the budget. Instructional assistants are not the big ticket item in the scheme of things, but are worth their weight in gold. Traditionally, superintendents, principals, and district management have assistants to help get their workload done in the quiet of an office, behind closed doors, solitude and peace, while across the green grass, over the rooftops of classrooms filled with 22+ students, and over the blacktop, over the playground, and into more classrooms filled with 22+ students, one teacher, and if lucky, one teaching assistant. The volume of learning, laughter, giggles, questions, and I know the answer is at mock level ×3. The classroom is skillfully being handled by one teacher, and if lucky, one instructional assistant in a room of 22+. I asked the board, wouldn't you want an assistant? What if it were you? So let's break tradition and start at the top.
Let's cut those positions, assistants, and you do your job. And again, I ask, what if it were you? Thank you. And I just want to say, Rogelio, I want to thank you for being so brave and remaining a gentleman while serving on this board. I appreciate it.
Next, we have Regina Ruiz.
Good evening, and thank you for your time. My name is Regina Ruiz, and I have been on the Aliso School PFA for 5 years. I have a second grader and a fourth grader. And tonight I come to you to speak in support of keeping... Keep going. Okay. Tonight I come to you to speak in support of keeping our beloved librarian, Miss Soto, full-time in her current capacity at Aliso Elementary. Today, a reader. Tomorrow, a leader. The more that you read, the more things that you will know. The more that you learn, the more places you will go. Once you learn to read, you will be forever free. Famous quotes about reading. But tonight I want to share with you one of Miss Soto's students' quotes. My son, Malachi Castañeda, he's at his baseball game, so he cannot be here to read it himself. This is him in front of the Battle of the Books in Miss Soto's library. This is a group of the students in Battle of the Books with Miss Soto, very proud and accomplished. This is a letter that he wrote to the Coastal View, being so concerned that the librarian would no longer be full-time at Aliso Elementary. He wrote his own letter to the editor. Hopefully it will be in this week's edition. Miss Soto is a great librarian because she is funny, nice, and most of all, she is the best librarian ever. Miss Soto has made me a better reader by always encouraging me to read more, and she is always pushing me beyond my limits. Miss Soto is so important to Aliso because we have more than 50 people in Battle of the Books because of her. That's saying something. Battle of the Books is so important to me because it gives me a chance to share my knowledge about reading to other people. Miss Soto has to stay at Aliso Elementary full time because everybody, and I mean everybody, loves her so much. Thank you for your time.
Next, we have Stacy Butter and Tamara Moreno and Jack Martinez have seated time for her, so she will have 9 minutes.
Good evening, board members. Oh. Good evening, board members, colleagues, and community members of Carpinteria. My name is Stacy Butler, and here stands with me my co-workers. We are the bus drivers of Carpinteria's Unified School District. I have Jack Martinez right here, Jose Ochoa, Tammy Marina, and Karen Labrat, and myself. We have seen the proposed transportation cuts for school year of 2019-20. Our supervisor, Michael Littlejohn, has informed us that the school district is looking at cutting bus drivers' hours and services back significantly. This decision changes drivers' employment with the district from full-time employment to part-time employees. Beyond that, the district is also planning to make these part-time shifts split shifts, meaning drivers would complete their part-time 2 hours over 2 separate shifts in a single day. The shifts would occur hours apart. We were encouraged to accept full-time employment with CUSD, and once accepting, we have served the community as loyal professionals. We've been grateful to serve the community and have made some of life's biggest choices around our employment with CUSD. We are your bus drivers, have given you long-term commitments to be loyal, dedicated to safety for your students, and knowing the routes, consistently being in the students' lives and giving them stability. Many CUSD students have special needs. Each bus driver is accustomed to the special needs of these students and their parents. Consistency is very important when serving children and their families. We, as your bus drivers, are best prepared to continue providing CUSD students with our highly professional services. Dedication, excellence, security, safety, consistency, and expertise. I stand here with pride as 3 of these bus drivers were awarded Employees of the Year for their excellence during the recent fire and debris flow disasters, impacting our students and the district employees. This risk, hard work, and dedication they invested is on our behalf now feels overlooked. This decision will destabilize their livelihoods. This cut, should it take place, will give each of the bus drivers a financial hardship as heads of households. 2 of these are single incomes, taking away their livelihood of 1/4 of their annual income. 4 out of the 5 of these USD bus drivers commute to Carpinteria daily. Should this cut take place on a part-time wage and no health care possibly, how would we be able to even afford to commute each day, let alone twice a day for a split shift? We would regretfully have to resign to find bus jobs in our own communities. And how attractive will a part-time position with a split shift be when you guys try to recruit new drivers in this tight labor market? We believe it will be difficult to replace drivers, especially highly professionals, just for a split shift, comparative low pay, and possibly no benefits. We have some ideas that might help the transportation department run, because we've sat down and we want to help. We want to help too. We want to do our part. So we would like to help in saving the budget however we can by keeping our 8 hours with our overtime from our daily route put into our lunchtime the following day. Say we're 15 minutes overtime, half an hour overtime, 45 minutes overtime. We would run it into the next day, and we'd take it, instead of taking overtime, we would cut that out so that we would not have any overtime except for field trips continuing as is with overtime after 8 hours. So that would be a savings there for you guys to look at. We believe it would also benefit the district by allowing your bus drivers to drive more field trips rather than contracting them out to the Santa Barbara Airbus, Pegasus, and Durham bus services. Would you consider doing an investigation if there would be a substantial savings in doing so? We asked our supervisor for fiscal data that would help us better understand where transportation funds are going, but he was unable to assist us. When information was requested by the union, we received a spreadsheet with totals paid to each contracted company. Unfortunately, the district did not provide the breakdown of these contract costs versus using us as the bus drivers and another company, Airbus. As you know, this is what we needed to be able to compare and demonstrate there's a savings there, and we want to help in that way too. Moving forward, and in consideration of the far-reaching impacts of your decisions, we hope you will consider the investment that you are making in your Carpinteria's children's, your students, by keeping us at 8 hours. For the sake of the students, their families, and the larger community we serve, we strongly encourage you to maintain the highly qualified professionals standing right here as your Carpinteria bus drivers that you have grown to know and rely upon. I thank you for your time and for your consideration.
Next, we have Rachel Bradley, and Cindy Reeve has seated time, so she will have 6 minutes.
Okay. Hello, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you, Ms. Castaneda, for talking on behalf of the librarians. I am the Carpinteria High School Library Media Tech, and I am also here to talk on behalf of the libraries and librarians. I think that it's really important that we remember that libraries are not only now for books, that they're places where students come to feel safe, that they're places where students are able to explore, to have access to equipment or facilities that they might not have at home, be it computers, internet, printers, craft material, things like that. I would like to quote something from Ms. Rigby's Coastal View letter, Reading is Key, that at CUSD, we're committed to providing the opportunity for all students to become successful and passionate readers. And we encourage the parents and community to join us in fostering a culture of literacy for our students. And I really do think that reading is key. If we don't fill the position with our retiring Miss Lesh from Canalino, we will have to split the services between our two elementary schools. There's so many things now that librarians can do, and it's not just the books, like I said. We can get more technical. They do things with computers, with apps, with phones. I know that we're going to maybe towards laptops or, electronic reading devices that have apps. There's so many wonderful things. Librarians also work to keep us honest. They let people know about news literacy, how copyrights work, what things are fair and honest. We create maker hubs. I know that Ms. Soto does, and so do I. We have lots of space and equipment for students to make projects. We're trying to get 3D printers. We work on getting grants. There's lots of things going on in our libraries. Librarians keep us grounded. We keep us connected to the past. A lot of times everything is looking forward. We're on our phones, we're on our computers, but we remind people it's okay to take some time and just sit down, and you can read that magazine, you can play that board game with your friend, you can read a book, you can open that up and discover a new world or an old world and see what's been going on. Librarians make it okay to be unique. So it's a stereotype, but come on, you've seen librarians with the pink hair and the crazy clothes. And I usually wear funny T-shirts that have something about why we should be in the library or something about books. But it's true. Librarians usually have kind of unique styles and personalities, and we accept our students and our coworkers, and we make it a good environment for them to express themselves, be who they are, let it have a safe place. We teach kids 21st century skills. We teach them how to search on the internet, how to look things up, how to learn if it's fake news or not. Things that you need to do. Write blogs, edit videos like our colleagues from the middle school. We do all those things. We build citizenship and respect for institutions. So do you remember when you were in elementary school and you went and you sat down and the librarian read to you and he opened your mind to that new world? And you said, oh my gosh. And then you realized you could come in here by yourself on recess, and you could find your own book, and you could open it up, and you could discover a new place or a new artist. It's magical. We need to keep the libraries open so students have these things. They have safe places, that they come before school, that they come during recess, that they come during lunch, that during the school day, teachers can use that time to have the librarians read or help them find lessons. I know that teachers can check out books, but if we have a librarian working 3 hours or 2 hours in one school and 3 hours or 2 hours in another school, that librarian's going to spend most of her time shelving and tidying up the library. A teacher checking out books is not going to have time to reshelve her class's other books. She's going to be looking for AR levels. She's going to be recommending books to a different student or running over here to help this crisis in this corner. When you have classes in libraries, you need two people, two adults, to supervise. There's no other way around it. Not if you want to get things done, things organized, students understanding the lesson. Anyway, I just wanted to make sure that you knew that libraries are really important and that we want to keep winning awards and get, United for Literacy awards. And I know all of you agree that this is the goal. We want our students to feel safe and protected and have places for them to learn. And I think it's super important that we have libraries at each of our major schools, at Aliso, at Catalino, at the middle school, at the high school, and that they're open. If there's other jobs or other things that you can think of for use for the librarians on their slow times, I think that's acceptable. Bring us those ideas. Most of us are really energetic and we want to help our students. So before you decide to cut us, just think again and imagine your kids when they were going to the libraries and how much different it would have been if they didn't have that reading time, if they didn't have the battle for the books, if they didn't have a place where they felt safe. Thank you.
We have Jay Hodgner and Amelia Carson. Sorry. Next we have Jay Hodgner and Amelia Carson, and Leslie Grieve has seated time.
Thank you for the, certainly. Thank you for the time that was ceded, and thank you for your attention. Let's see. 2 weeks ago, CUSD Superintendent Rigby presented a series of economic figures that might have led the casual reader to the following conclusion. The sky over CUSD is falling, and emergency action is required. Well, it must be spring, because the annual season of budgetary fear-mongering appears here again. For many CUSD staff and faculty, we've come to anticipate these inflated claims of crisis. You heard people speaking to that today. They are routinely justified and exaggerated by other unnecessary actions, otherwise unnecessary actions. As this strategic narrative is spun, Carpinteria is again advised that CUSD is going broke and threats of insolvency can only be avoided by swift administrative action. As I said in the paper, and as I'm saying now, sorry, but we're not buying it. For years, employees and families watched CUSD peddle the same tangled tale in an effort to justify unnecessary budget cuts and politically advantageous pet projects. We've seen a lot of those. This year is no different. Over $1 million in new cuts to resources that directly serve our students. For example, cuts in areas of the CHS and CMS after-school programs, to the high school athletic program, to transportation and bus services, to K-8 curriculum field trips, cuts to instructional aides across the district, librarian positions and hours of operations, custodial hours, district health and sanitation services, safety preparedness initiatives, and secretarial support at school sites. All while we're experiencing problems in these areas as well because of the understaffing and the lack of resources you've already left these people with. Claims that CUSD must double or even triple cash reserves mandated by the state only add to the contrived crises. While significant salary increases were awarded to the superintendent and the assistant superintendent in 2018, they maintained their personal professional trajectory by cutting resources critical to the teaching and learning of our Carpinteria's kids. Examples would include the letter to the community where reading is key. Thank you for mentioning that, Rachel. Where Ms. Rigby recently explained that reading and literacy are paramount to student success. 1 month later, she recommends reducing elementary librarian services by half. That would be half for 4 schools. Throughout 2017-18, Ms. Rigby acknowledged that kindergarten instructional aides were critical to a full-day kindergarten program. So the union joined her. We wanted to see kids in school for longer. We thought it would be good for them. And we joined her and we said, yes, we're going to stand shoulder to shoulder with you because you understand that aides are critical to this program. Ms. Rigby promised 6-hour aides, but she delivered 3 hours worth of aides per classroom. Not 6, that's half the time. That's not even as much as they had before the program was extended. Although our community has invested millions in Measure U, via Measure U, in CUSD's infrastructure development, the superintendent also recommends further cuts to custodial services which maintain the very buildings, sites, and facilities that we're building, as well as the ones that are really quite dated and in desperate need of care. Note that sanitation and hygiene in CUSD have reached historic lows. Even in the Healthy Kids survey, students acknowledged that our district is looking less sanitary and less clean and less kept than it ever has. We're also receiving unsatisfactory inspections from county health inspectors, like at Aliso School in the kitchen there. Not out of a fault of the people who work in the kitchen, but out of negligence of administration at the district office to deal with a problem that was brought to them 9 months before the county inspectors showed up. 9 months of inaction and negligence. Although the district cut over 30 instructional aid positions in 2018, it increased the number of administrative personnel who do not work with students, further reducing the workload of already pretty well compensated administrators. But we're glad you don't have to work quite as hard, and we're glad you have a little extra help. We just think that we could use a little extra help working with the kids as well. While Ms. Rigby failed to meet all, and that's all 3, of her stated professional objectives for the 17-18 school year, the board, not everyone on the board, thank you, Mr. Delgado, but the rest of the board provided her a positive evaluation based on her fiscal conservancy, her ability to tighten the screws on the budget so that our budget looks attractive to, is it investors? I'm still trying to figure out where and what the point is for all that money being set aside that we're not using on kids. For the claimed crises of, what's that crisis? I've never heard anyone define the crises that we're being told we need to be afraid of if we don't have 3% reserves. Not one time. But you're invited. CUSD continues to suffer from autocratic leadership resistant to collaboration. And while advising the community that improved administration, faculty relationships are a priority, the superintendent has all but entirely ignored the experiences shared by CUSD's employee union, the only elected representatives of employees. Can I get a time check from you, please? Wonderful. I can do a lot in 2.5 minutes. This evening, we were presented with Assistant Superintendent Fitzgerald's projected budget. And without doubt, she delivered that which was requested of her, yet another doomsday budget. Although she did not share that the district had, or although she did share, and I want to say thank you for this, although she did share that the district hadn't yet mentioned a $300,000 increase in revenues this time, I couldn't help but notice that she seems to have either forgotten, dismissed, or simply failed to mention 3 other important clarifications associated with the reserve balance. The first, when Ms. Fitzgerald shares the cost of the labor force in the district, she is painfully vague about how that figure breaks down. Although administration only makes up about 3% of the labor force, it eats up about 15% of our total expenditures. And that expense category just keeps climbing like it did last year when they brought on more administrators. When Ms. Fitzgerald tells you, number 2, that the district has a structural deficit, she is aware that that is not an accurate use of the term. If the CUSD did not take any action this year, its projected reserve balance would still be higher years out than it is this year. It is mathematically impossible to have a structural deficit if we have higher reserves 3 years out. That's not possible. We are bringing in more money than we are spending if we have more money in 3 years. That'd be a fascinating one to have explained. Perhaps the following is the most opaque action, that would be a polite way of putting it, by those district leaders determined to make CUSD's fiscal bottom line look better than CUSD's educational efficacy. Were any of you aware that in the past 2 years, the district has been moving significant sums of money from the unrestricted fund to the restricted fund? In 2017 and 18, the district increased transfers from the unrestricted fund to the restricted fund from 1% to 7.8%.
Thank you.
May I finish the last 3 sentences?
That's all right.
Why, thank you.
I think we got the point.
I hope you did. On my way out, I'll mention that this year, the district transferred 27% more from the unrestricted to the restricted fund. $5 million. Thank you.
Okay.
That's all the comments. Oh, no, never mind. We have one more, Jamie Diamond.
Jamie Diamond?
Yes.
My name's Jamie Diamond. I have a 6th grader at Carpinteria Middle School, a 3rd grader at Canalino, and an almost 2-year-old who will be there all too soon. I've been here at the podium before during my least favorite season of the year, budget season. Every year, the district offers cuts to maintain a healthy business. The union vilifies the district and for the cuts proposed, and then parents feel pressure to align one way or the other. As a parent, I fully support instructional aides. Mrs. Herman and Mrs. Grieve have both worked with both of my kids that have been through Canalino. One has a much harder time than the other. They're amazing, especially with students who struggle. Specific subjects like my daughter with reading. She started the year below grade level, and due to Ms. Herman's small groups and Mrs. Wheatley's understanding of my daughter's soft-heartedness, she's now near or at grade level in all of her language arts areas. But here's the thing, I'm also a business owner in a very volatile seasonal industry. And if we only had 3% in reserves, we would be in serious trouble. It's up to me to make hard decisions that directly impact my employees and customers. I have to figure out how and what to cut from the budget when reserves get low and a season looks like it's going to be tough due to whatever the various reasons of fishing are. And I try to think of new ways to operate to lessen the negative impacts on my employees and therefore my customers. Many times I've heard Mr. Delgado say we have to think outside the box, and I fully agree. But I have yet to hear you come up with an out-of-the-box solution. It's not enough to say it. You have to be willing to come up with solutions. And you're not the only one. People in town, people on Facebook, people in the Coastal View will say, you have to come up with out of the box. There has to be another reason. There has to be another way. But nobody's willing to come up with that other way. And that's the hard part of the job. And that's what you all are here to do, is to figure out that hard part. And one of the characteristics of a Canalino student, especially in Krista Municich's class, is be a problem solver. Well, I'm not going to be that guy, so here are the reductions I support. The one-time expenditure, number one. I partially support the athletic cuts. I believe that there is better busing options for our athletes to travel that do not cost as much as what we are currently doing. And I also agree with option number 9, the cuts to field trips, because Diana has committed to the parent groups to replace the district's 50% of the field trip funding with grants. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Any further, Rogelio, you have anything else you want to add? So I'd just like to say, I've said it before, that this is never easy. I think the biggest difference we have here is where we feel individually or have a comfort level with reserves, and whether or not we're comfortable not having any cushion, not following recommended guidelines. That 3% minimum is thrown out there, and that applies fine to big districts. It does not apply to small districts. It really does. It's not fiscally sensible or sound management practices for any business, much less a school district, a public entity. You look at any other public entity and any other similar school district in our area, or even outside our area, and they have much larger reserves. We saw that in this presentation. I don't think anyone is diminishing or discounting the value of our staff or any of these proposed cuts. I think that's when I think we take everybody's comments to heart. Mr. Hotchner would be much more effective if he didn't come up here every time and insult us and insult staff and impugn their integrity. And you wouldn't be lying, Mr. Hotchner. There's an effort by administration. No, we're not. No, we're not going to debate. Please sit down. So there's the administration wants to collaborate with the union, and is looking for ideas, but we don't ever get ideas from the union, and we are present, and we don't get ideas. We say think outside the box. We don't get ideas when you say that. We just say don't do it, and we have to do it. That's our job. That's like the number one priority of the board.
Well, but it looks like that you haven't come up with any ideas for the last decade.
Please explain. Please explain that comment.
Well, let me explain it.
Yeah, please do.
How many years have you been in the board?
This is my 9th year.
9th year. How many years has there been a deficit in our district?
A deficit?
Yes, or over expenditures.
Well, quite a few. But if you're blaming that on me,
no.
You saw that clearly, Rogelio. You saw the page where our contributions through no effort of ourselves or choice or anything have increased our pension, solely our pension contributions to our retirement for our teachers. Our contributions have increased $2.3 million per year this year over what they were 5 years ago, not to mention 10 years ago. And that's out of no effort upon ourselves. That the state mandates that. And our health contributions, just in the last 5 years, have increased nearly $1 million per year. Those are significant costs. Our property tax revenues, which are our sole source of income, have not even kept up with those expenses, not to mention the cost of living adjustments that we've made. Staff has seen, over the last, I think it's 7 or 8 years, has seen 10% increases in their COLA. Okay? So please don't try to impugn the previous board's ability to maintain a balanced budget.
This is how I see it, that if it happens 1 year, if it happens again, and then again, then, well, I think it's time to listen to other people and listen to them and go their way. Otherwise,
Wait,
next year is going to end up being the same.
If I'm understanding you correctly, we've made cuts, but you're saying that because we still are running a deficit, that we shouldn't have made those cuts?
No. What I'm saying is this.
No. I don't understand your logic.
Well, right now there is 4 of us, but the normal size is 5 of us. And when Maureen was here, I mean, we didn't agree 100%, probably 70%, because it's normal. I mean, she might not agree on this school issue. That's fine. That's all right. That's normal. We don't have to agree 100% for years. No. And what I've seen, I mean, this is what's actually happening. That as soon as you have 3 board members, which then basically it's all over. All of this discussion is over, and it shouldn't be that way. I mean, this is what actually I was naive, probably stupid years ago, when I thought, well, there's this school issue, and that we're going to discuss it, and we may agree for 1-3-3-2 or 5-0 occasionally, but not every time. I've been on the board a couple of years, and I haven't seen, this is my point of view, haven't seen any of you 3 disagree with each other. Not even once. That's 2 years. The Coastal View 2 years ago picked it up and said, well, the board from 2015 almost up to November the 8th, it was 5-0 every time, hundreds of times, hundreds. I've been on this board a couple of years, and I have seen hundreds of times listening to 3 board members agreeing on everything, and it shouldn't be that way. It shouldn't be that way, because the 5 of us and the whole community gets this, the school agenda. And it's up to discussion. I don't have to agree. No one has to agree 100% on it. Maybe a week, maybe a month, 2 months, but not for years. Because I have pointed out miscalculations, mistakes, and that's normal. And at the end of this is the logic. If at the end of a board meeting there's a disagreement on any of these issues, then that means that it was a good board meeting.
Let's talk about the issue.
No,
that's the idea is for you to.
That's the
We're talking about the issue, the budget right now.
What I'm saying is that, for example, this budget, the reductions for $1,116,000, that's going to stay regardless of. And actually, we should all pay attention.
Rogelio, we need to listen to each other.
No.
So your job is to try
I think that we should listen to the community. That's who should we listen to. Because basically, let me remind you that the district is the employee of the community, because all of this revenue.
Jamie, you have something you want to say?
Well, you don't cut me off like this.
Well,
No.
Rogelio,
Let me finish.
Well, you're not. The idea is we're debating the budget, and you haven't said a single thing to convince any of us to change our mind.
No. What I'm saying is that actually, that you will not change your mind on on the last scenario.
You don't know that. You
Well,
don't
well,
know that. You haven't heard
well,
what I have to say
I,
tonight.
I hope that you're right. I hope that you're right, and that you approve any other scenario instead of the 1,100,000. I hope you're right, Jimmy.
Well, I have some questions
Yeah.
that I'd like to
Well,
have answered, for sure.
I mean, questions are important, but the decision is final decision is what matters. I hope that you're right and that you vote again, that you don't go for the 1,100,000 reduction.
Okay, so Jamie, you have some questions.
I have two specific questions for Maureen. One, I'd like to see all of these do not have in it giving COLA raises to the staff, as
Right.
you mentioned, that I'm sure we'd all like to do. Do you have projections on the reserve balance in the scenarios if we were to give them the COLAs?
Not in the presentation, I don't.
So 1% COLA is how much?
191,000.
Okay, so 1% COLA reduces our
Total district, not just bargaining unit.
Administration.
I've made that clear many times tonight. Yeah, I did.
yeah,
if you were listening.
I'd appreciate if the gallery would keep their comments to themselves. Yeah. Yeah. And the smirking. The smirking doesn't help your.
I'm legally allowed to smile, Mr. Shaver.
Yeah, you are, but it doesn't help you. It doesn't help your case, Mr.
Well, I'm
Hodgner.
not presenting the case to you.
So what happens with negotiations and proposed cost of living increases? Through the process, when we bring scenarios to the table, that's when we bring those built in. It's not a typical practice of building them in budget models for a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
So we do offline run through scenarios with 1%, 2%, 3% COLAs or whatever, so that as we're negotiating, we can see the impact, and we do bring those to the table when we do negotiate. But it's not typically built in an adopted budget.
It does make it hard to analyze it too much. I understand the principle behind that, but it does, if everything does not include that assumption, then it makes it harder to analyze the numbers a little bit more and to understand where we're going to go. Because I do want a larger reserve for us, and I've said that many times. I don't know that necessarily I need the 1.5, where we are at now.
About 1.5.
1.5, okay.
No, that's what each one.
So the challenge is to build it in a budget, and this has been a challenge in my whole career of 30 plus years, is that it becomes a guarantee and it's an expectation.
Okay.
So that's left for the discussion at the bargaining table.
And then also, I have another question in regards to scenario 3. You're omitting 3, 8, and 11. Why were those specific choices made?
That was just an option?
No, actually, it was because a board member recommended it. So you'll recognize your recommendations in these options. During the course of the meetings this last few months, we heard from a board member, only don't cut anyone, just cut the textbooks. Mm-hmm. We heard keep the librarians and the instructional assistants. And then we also heard, make sure that you have healthy reserves. So we took the information we heard from the board discussions the last 2 months and created the options.
Right.
But there's all kinds of scenarios that you can continue to create. What is really most helpful is to know what is the bottom line, like what is the total reduction that the board is interested and related to the reserves.
Well, I was just going to say that in my 20 years of working with the district, I've been very aware that many times other districts around us have had many issues. Santa Barbara had, I believe, $1 million deficit at one time a few years ago. And Carpinteria has never had a deficit spending budget. So I appreciate what Maureen is doing with all these numbers, because it's definitely not easy. And it's never easy to cut people. So I think it's something that we all need to discuss, because I know that the aides are a very important factor in the classroom. Librarians are as well. The bus drivers are as well. But again, Rogelio, you want us to come up with other options, and you keep saying that, but we need other options. And bottom line, the biggest piece of the budget is people. And that's an unfortunate piece of making a budget.
So is there an option that that either of you endorse over any other? Or is there a staff recommendation at this point?
I think with the amount of reserves that we're seeing, to me, scenario 3 would be maybe a balance between nothing and something.
I agree that I feel like we could not take as big of a cut this year, but not necessarily 3, 8, and 11. Although I do agree with those for sure, but maybe we can fudge things around a little bit and see where we can make different cuts besides just 3, 8, and 11.
Scenario 2. Reduction is only 215,000.
No.
Well,
I don't agree with that one either. I'd like to see our reserve balance higher than.
Because one of the things I think, Jamie, too, that when we went down to San Diego for the California School, what is
CSBA.
it? CSBA. One of the things I heard loud and clear that the smaller the district, the bigger the reserve should be. And that was across the board and it was mostly small districts at that meeting.
Oh. Well, how are you going to do it then?
I think that's all laid out for us right here.
Right. And if we make the cuts this year based on these projections, we won't have to make any cuts next year, hopefully. If we get our
I have heard that same statement 2 years in a row.
What's that?
Can you repeat that, Amy, what you just said right now?
That we hopefully won't have to make them next year?
Correct.
Yeah. I do hope
I've been hearing that
but
for
I
a couple
also
of
said
years.
Hopefully, because you never know where property taxes
exactly.
are going to go.
So
I mean, that's
I know, but you're ignoring the data.
No.
You're ignoring the data.
Well, actually, you're ignoring me because I'm talking.
No, I'm not ignoring
Well, then let me finish. You know what we have accomplished is that my thought is gone because you interrupted me. You shouldn't do it.
I think if we look at the information that we have in front of us and see that the money that's coming into us through property taxes is not enough to cover our expenses. And if you look at just special ed alone, I think, me personally, I saw special ed firsthand. We have some amazing teachers, we have some amazing instructional assistants, and we're doing such a good job in Carpinteria that a lot of people who have children with special needs are moving to Carpinteria to come to our schools. But the cost of special ed to the district is quite phenomenal. I think if you project it out, it's without looking, I think it was $3 million that we have to take from restricted to put in, because we're not getting enough from the state or the feds to cover special ed, because we are doing a good job.
That's right. On
that's right.
Slide 23, that covers our contribution to special ed. And it does, so right now we're contributing 70% of the cost of special ed out of the general fund. Our contribution to special ed is $3.5 million. There's only two things that leave the unrestricted general fund: special education and restricted routine maintenance, and those are both required by law, by ed code, to transfer. Restricted maintenance, and this was on the page, slide 24, we transfer $775,000. The requirement under ed code is 3% of the of the total general fund, like our reserve, or what you transferred in 1974-75. That's what the number we use.
So I think
it's less by a couple.
Someone made a comment earlier to try to deliberately mislead the public, and that's what the transfers are for.
For special education and for restricted maintenance. Those are the only things that come out of the unrestricted general fund.
Required.
And they're required.
Yes.
They're required.
How much was transferred?
3.5 for special education and 775 for restricted maintenance. So just about $4.5 million. 4.3 million.
Which is noted in every budget document.
Right.
that we
It's
provide.
disclosed. It was presented at second interim in both restricted and unrestricted.
So
Now, no other dollar goes to restricted programs from the general fund.
The biggest issue I have with, I mean, I could be okay with scenario 3, other than the fact that, you know, we don't know what our COLA is going to be this year, and based on, you know, past experience, it's going to be something. If the union would, you know, be so benevolent to maybe forego a COLA this year, you know, I could certainly endorse option 3.
We almost did last year, if you recall. We literally almost did last year. I think we had a 0.5, 0.5% increase, which came nowhere near meeting the cost of living. We've been trying to work with you.
Again, that takes us
Well,
to.
I'm hoping we can continue to do that then.
Well, that take.
Money, so we didn't have to keep doing that.
That takes us back to page 34. Page 32, I'm sorry. Scenario number 2. Reduction option 1 only, 215,000. Healthy reserves and mention no, probably no COLA.
Half a percent COLA puts us out of compliance.
That's why leadership is here.
Well, no, it's not. That's not why they're here.
You see, you're blocking one option.
I'm not.
I said it 2 years ago or so. This is, like a tug of war that the union leadership and the district. And believe me, no one is going to get 100% control. No, you will not control union leadership, and the
I don't think anybody's looking for 100% control.
That is why you say, well, this is what we stand for, and this is it. Shouldn't be that way. It should, well, let's talk about it, let's negotiate, and we'll go from there. Instead of saying, well, this is the only option, a million and 100,000.
I don't think any of us said that tonight. I don't think you're listening to anything we're saying.
Well, actually, you're the one that listened. That's why. That is why. I mean
oh, that's funny. You're funny, man.
Wow, you're funny.
Do we want to go somewhere between scenario 3 and 4, or what are we thinking at this point as far as reductions? Because I would like to be able to give COLAs if we can.
Well,
I want that.
From the leadership viewpoint, we do want to support our employees with a COLA. So we're not, we need a budget proposal that allows us to do that. Right. So it's not going to work for us to make no reductions, right, because we will not be able to enter into negotiations with good faith. And we are committed to providing a COLA, and that's why we're recommending with a COLA and reserves that we need to make significant reductions at this point.
And that's the 1,100,000 that you're recommending.
No,
well,
at this point, I don't have a number, but the board, last time we were together, the board was interested in 1,000,000.1. Were you not?
We were.
You were. So we went back and we presented the information again. Again, we're coming back to you, and I'm not sitting on top of a number. What I need to know is direction from the board in terms of what we're going to look at to support a budget that is sustainable, and that's with the reserves moving closer to 10%, as well as for us to be able to enter negotiations with room to give a COLA. So that's really
actually, this is.
Excuse me?
to me, this is your recommendation. You're recommending cuts for these amounts. That's how I see it. And then you're asking for direction, but based on that recommendation, to me, it's just that. It's a recommendation. Whether I could go for it, could approve it or not, it's a recommendation. And the recommendation, it's that. It's a recommendation. It's not a command. It's not an order. It's a recommendation. Here it is. You debate it, but it's not something, at least to me, that I have to approve. I might, but I reserve the right to not approve it.
Sure. Thanks.
So you're looking for specific direction tonight, or just another kind of range?
I think it would be helpful to have more specific.
All right.
Because we're getting closer and closer, and we do have to, by April 23rd, we will have to bring a resolution for reductions. So we need some specific direction.
Let me ask a quick question.
Sure.
So, I mean, I don't know, like, the suggestion that the bus drivers had, I don't know how much money their, them not getting paid overtime would save, and if that would save positions and that, but are you willing to look at things like that?
I'm sure it'll be, so the question was whether or not we'd be willing to look at overtime for bus drivers, and whether or not that would make a significant contribution. My feeling is it's not going to make a significant contribution, just based on the number of people, what their wages are, and what the limited amount of overtime is. But that being said, I'm sure staff will look at that. There's some legalities involved in that I'm not sure you can do from an HR perspective and just from a state employment law perspective. But I'm sure we could look at some options there. So.
And I really appreciated them coming with the option.
Yeah, they did come.
That was
other bus companies, or just it's nice if just like people come with suggestions.
Right. That was.
Well, and that's why we have budget study sessions. They have been more roundtable in the past. We've moved away from that, but getting community input is important, and because it gives us an idea where the community's values are, emails, letters to the paper. We're aware of all that, and this notion that the board and the superintendent and administration are heartless, robber barons is really that's getting tiresome to hear that, and because any of you who know any of us know that's not true, it's a difficult part of running any kind of enterprise, whether it be a business or a nonprofit or a school district, that when your expenditures exceed your revenue increases, you have to make cuts. Otherwise, you run out of money. And I think we all saw where and it's through no fault of anyone here or in the district, but our contributions to retirement have increased, hugely and significantly. And not just for the school district, but for water districts, for sanitation districts, for cities, and so have our health care. I think everyone has to be cognizant of the fact that we, as a district, have continued to pay 100% of a premium that continues to increase. It's increased $1 million over the last 6 years or so per year, and that's not sustainable either. Just to be frank, that's not a sustainable model. And when 85% of your budget are people, when you have to make cuts, you got to cut people, and that it's difficult. It's hard because you're affecting people's lives, and their and their livelihood and their connections and their friendships and all. I don't think any of us deny any of that. But we're responsible for the fiscal well-being of this entity, and it's incumbent upon us. It's really it's budget, making sure the superintendent does their job. Those are the two things we are responsible for. All this minutia that we really shouldn't have anything to do with it. Micromanaging, it's not our job. So that's why they pay us the big dollars. I can say that.
So might I suggest?
Just a sec.
Might I suggest that we go back to the leadership team, and given the input we've all received up until this point, and work on another scenarios with the $737,000.
I think somewhere,
and then
or
we
maybe
go back to the
somewhere
900.
Yeah.
Well, originally we did 900,
Yeah.
and then so in 7, 9, and the 1.1
Somewhere in between.
Somewhere in
So
between.
we actually have a question from
Okay.
a student. And you want to step up to the podium, or do you want to just stand there and I'll say your question? All right.
I was just going to say, because obviously in correlation with all the schools that you're cutting funds from, not as many people have opinions, but as for the actual population of the schools, but as for say like the high school and things like that, maybe if you guys added in some of our opinions into it, not ask necessarily the freshman or sophomore type of groups just because they're too young, but maybe as for the seniors, the 18-year-olds, the ones that actually have a stance on the topics, then you could take part of what we would like to see in the school, and then you could also get an insight of how we see it. Like certain things like books and things like that, they don't need as much attention as other priorities in the school. So, and even at that point, with the things that we tell you to cut that we need, you could take those funds from there and then implement them into the other schools, like the middle schools and things like that. But
that's a very good suggestion. So thank you. So I think the I've offered in the past to come and speak to either the JSA or to one of the history classes or poli-sci class, just to kind of it's fantastic that you guys are here. You're all Mr. Basson's class, right? Is this world government or is this American democracy? Okay, well, thanks for coming, and let Mr. Basson know that if he'd like one of us to come and speak, just to talk about it in one of your classes, we'd love to. And
listen, I think is what he's.
We have the 7th period that's open, and I'm sure if any of you guys really are interested, we can hold an event in the library and just invite whoever would like to come, that would like to talk to you and offer suggestions maybe, if they come with suggestions.
Great.
Possibly put posters around and things like that just to notify students who are interested that could come to it, because I'm sure there will be some that will be attending it.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, no, you guys are very, very engaged, and I appreciate that.
Plus, Mr. Corneo, you see every day, and he's always interested in input from you, and he brings that input to our leadership team meetings. Yeah.
So that's really the
right at your school site every day.
That's really the proper I mean, doesn't mean we can't come speak to you, but really the chain of organizational chart is you speak to principal speaks to administration, and then the administration speaks to us. But then on the flip side of that, we're all elected by the community, so we're responsible. Our responsibilities are to the community. So it's kind of there's some conflicts in there occasionally, but I think we'd be happy to come and listen to you guys. So thanks. So I think
how does that sound?
I think that sounds great,
Yeah.
Diana.
How does that sound, Rogelio?
Good.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Okay. So we'll move. We'll move on to.
I. Change orders.
We're on I.
I1.
We're on I1.
No.
No. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we're going to I. Measure U.
Measure U,
So
I1.
Item I1 is we're being asked to approve change order number 2 for the modular science and computer classrooms at the high school. Can I get a motion to approve?
I move to approve change order number 2.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, item I2 is we're being asked to approve change order number 3 for modular science and computer classrooms at the high school.
I move to approve change order number 3.
I'll second.
And this has already all taken place, right? These are just.
The work is done.
Yeah, the work is done. Yes.
The architects approve it as
Yeah.
it's coming through. Our site managers approve it, and then we're just the
Right.
formality so they can get
Yes.
paid. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so I3 is a contract with KBZ Architects for furniture selection and order coordination for classrooms at Carpenter High School, Catalina, Aliso. Can I get a motion to approve?
I move to approve change. No, that's not a change.
Contract
Contract.
with KBZ.
Lost my place.
I have a
I'll second that.
question on this. Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. So we are approving this contract and at an hourly rate not to exceed 29,500.
No, not hourly. Just a not to exceed number.
Not to exceed 29,500. Were there any other bids to this?
I believe this is the architect that has selected the furniture and must have been voted on quite a few years ago. Because there's furniture at Catalina, I know. And it's all the same furniture
Yes.
manufacturer. So it had to have been moved and approved
Because
a while back.
So you're asking if there
See,
were
correct, because
competitive
I tried to find another bid for it and I couldn't find it for this.
There were bids on the furniture.
We'll have bids on the actual furniture.
Mhm.
So this is an hourly contract,
No.
not
This
to
is a service.
This is a service contract,
Service
not to
contract.
exceed. It'll be billed hourly, and the hourly charges cannot add
Not
up
to
to
exceed,
more than.
okay.
So it's not a bid
All right.
purchase.
Yeah. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. I4 is approval of a leaseback resolutions and contract documents for the Catalino modernization resolution 19844 and the high school modernization resolution 19845 and the high school exterior sidewalk and doors replacement resolution 19846.
I move to approve all those resolutions.
Second.
Okay, this is a roll call.
Rogelio?
Aye.
Jamie?
Aye.
Andy?
Aye.
I'm aye.
Okay, move on to J, personnel summary. Can I get a motion to approve?
I move to approve the personnel summary.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, item J2 is is resolution 19843 terminating services of certificated employee as a result of reduction or discontinuation of particular kind of services. Can I get a motion to approve?
And I move to approve resolution 19843.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes, I have a comment on this. So I just double checking. So he waived his right to a hearing on this, correct?
So,
Mr. Barrera?
I'm sorry.
You don't mention names.
Please don't mention names.
Okay, all right.
I'm sorry, what was the question? I'm
I was just double checking on this, whether this certificated employee actually waived his right to a hearing. That's why he's...
Yes. And it's due to a loss of the CTE funding that we're reducing the class that this employee teaches. And yes, did not attend waived his right for a hearing, yes.
All right, okay.
Yes.
Okay, all those in favor? Oh, wait, let's see, that's a resolution.
Yes.
Yeah. Roll call?
Oh.
Rogelio?
Aye.
Jamie?
Aye.
Andy?
Aye.
I'm aye.
Okay, we'll move on to J3, initial proposal from the school district to the Carboning Association of Unified School Employees, certificated.
Bless you.
Can I get a motion to approve that proposal? Or not?
Well, Was there a proposal on here?
Yes.
Yes.
Right here.
You want to make a motion?
Yes, okay.
I move to approve it.
Okay. Can I get a second there?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, item J4, initial proposal from the school district to cause classified.
I move to approve the proposal, the initial proposal.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Board communications. Oh, okay. Rogelio, you have anything?
Yes. Going back to 2 decades ago or so, and I remember actually, my daughter Andrea. She read books. I have them at home. Then my other daughter, Anna, she read books. I have them at home. There's a drawer for each one of them. My daughter, Monica, she reads books. She has another drawer. So there's 1, 2, 3 drawers full of books. And over the years, I've seen them read at night at the dining table or in the room, reading, and listening to that presentation. Reading books cannot be replaced by anything. Having the actual book on your hand, going page by page, that's a value that every student should get. And actually, I still prefer to read a book and have it in my hand than read it online. I can do it, but it's just that feeling of having that book with me and where I could take it anywhere. And then learn from it. That's something that cannot be replaced. So that is why cutting hours or even thinking about it, it's not right. It's not right. And the three of my daughters, actually, they all participated in the Battle of the Books. And that's because the Battle of the Books was that, the Battle of the Books themselves. And hearing you brings me back memories that actually haven't changed. Have taught at every level, grammar school, middle school, high school, college level, and every year there was a need for an instructional aid. Believe me. It doesn't matter how young the student is or how old the student is, the teacher needs help. And I'm speaking with the heart of a teacher. My degrees actually dealt with literature, reading books, and that is why for decades I was used to seeing students every day. I mean, 7, 8 years old, or 18, or 22 years old, and that that's something that the success of a teacher can only be possible with an instructional aid. That's my point. That learning academic achievement comes through an instructional aid. Otherwise, things can get tough. And we have seen it. And basically what we need in carpentry in our district is to improve that academic achievement. That reading level has to improve. Those math, science, English language scores have to improve. To say to the community, okay, we have succeeded. We have students are learning, students are succeeding, students are going to college, students are getting a degree. And that's something that cannot be replaced. And again, I'm speaking through the heart of a teacher. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Jamie.
Real fast, I just want to say how excited I was about the CMS presentation, because my daughter is one of the fifth graders going to visit the school tomorrow, and seeing what they're doing there was really cool, and I'm so excited, and I know she's already really excited to go there, but I'm going to go home and explain to her all the things I saw tonight, so I think she'll be really excited. So yeah. I appreciate that presentation.
Thank you.
It was fun.
Yeah. Good things happening.
Yeah.
Sally?
I just wanted to say that on March 19th, I attended the Carpinteria Children's Project Literacy Breakfast, which it's the second year we've held that breakfast, and we had a variety of nonprofits and people who are working in the community, including the after-school programs, the United Way, the Family Service Agency, Partners in Education, and others. And everyone basically was sharing how they were working on literacy with their agencies and with parents and in the schools. And I think each one of them really appreciates coming and hearing what other agencies are doing and getting ideas and learning about computer programs and what they can do to inspire their groups to work with students. Yesterday I also attended the Girls Inc. Luncheon, the Women of Inspiration. Rogelio's youngest daughter, Monica, spoke eloquently about her experiences at Girls Inc. and how when she started there, she was just a shy, retiring young lady, and boy, did she ever give a powerful presentation, including the fact that the entire room stood up and applauded her, which showed she spoke very well. 4 other Carpinteria High School students were honored because they have all received either Girls Inc. Carpinteria scholarships or Girls Inc. National scholarships. So it was a pleasure to see all these girls being honored and what good works go on at Girls Inc. Thank you.
Thanks, Sally.
Sure.
That's great. So how many of you guys are on the track team? Right there. Russell Cup, Saturday? All right. Any baseball players? No baseball players. Baseball has to do the hurdles. So were you guys at the Junior Russell Cup on last Friday? Was it fun? The little kids were great.
Oh, he was going to shake his head.
No, it was a good time. I'd just like to have send a big shout out to Van Latham, who really worked extra hard to put that on, and his whole group of volunteers out there. But Mr. Latham did a great job. And I'd also like to thank our 2 ag teachers, Mr. Gomez and Mr. Lopez, for really shaping up the school farm. It's looking better than ever.
It is.
Lambs came last weekend. Yeah. Pigs are coming this weekend, I think. Anybody in FFA? One guy? All right. Good for you. Girl? Yeah. Lamb? Do you have a lamb?
She's hiding.
All right. Anyhow, so the Russell Cup 100th anniversary is Saturday. It should be really exciting. There's some very good performers there. There's some former Olympians going to be there that actually competed in the Russell Cup, as well as a number of other professional athletes. So it should be really exciting. I don't think we have anything for the calendar, do we? And Measure U timeline for the future agenda items. And we're adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're done.